This trend will not end. Young adult book adaptations will live on.
It's time now to begin phase 2.
Welcome to the Scorch! The world outside's hanging on by a very thin thread. Beyond this door lies the beginning of your new lives.
Maze Runner The Scorch Trials. So Maze Runner The Scorch Trials is directed by Wes Ball, and it stars Dylan O'Brien and a lot of the people from the first one, and a guy from Game of Thrones. So Maze Runner The Scorch Trials picks up directly when the Maze Runner left off. You know, where you got all like the confusing exposition about like brain cancer and stuff, and you're like, oh, you're trying to cram too much information in my head. Ooh. And now they take you to this place, and you just kind of like, they do all these big reveals, which they didn't show in the trailer, which I suppose was supposed to be big reveals, but they just kind of breezed over them, and you just look at that like, someone should help them. And you just kind of look at that and you're like, that's not great writing. Anyway, let's keep going. And then like, oh no, Wicked is not good, it's bad, like we knew in the first one, kinda. And now they're on the run trying to get away from the bad guys to like the rebels. Okay, so to start with the 3 positives I found in this movie. Dylan O'Brien, very good. He's really, really good at this character. He really comes into his own. I like the character that he's created, but everyone else around him is just kind of boring. They did these practical zombie effects, which looked really, really cool when they first showed them, and then in the middle of the movie, they switched to CGI, and you're just kind of like, oh, that's hideous. Which is weird, because I don't know why you would need CGI zombies that are chasing real people, doing like stunts, or is it like just too much to cost? And some chemistry between actors is very good. Like the chemistry between the guys, it's all good. Like the chemistry they had in the first movie, still there, but there's also this like wonky chemistry that Dylan O'Brien and all the other guys have with some of the girls in the movie. Onto this long list of flaws. Maze Runner The Scorch Trials is over 2 hours long. Well over 2 hours long, and that's way too long. By like minute 45, you're just kind of looking like, I am bored. Very bored. And the ending, the ending also mirrors the first one. Like the ending, it's not one of those like, oh no, we went all through this. It's like one of those endings where it's like, why did this movie end up having to happen? I'm sure it worked well in the book, but for a movie which is over 2 hours long and really boring, you just could have like gotten rid of this movie, made 5-minute sequence, and then you could have had Maze Runner the Duology, the 2 movies. You could have Maze Runner 1, Maze Runner 2, and you couldn't have any of these weird Scorch Trial subtitles. The world building was also terrible. They tried to do this in like exposition things, and they were like these charismatic characters, but it's just terrible. Like, I liked the first one because it felt big but small, but it was a very contained story at the same time. Whereas this movie, it tries to have a big story and expand even more and have an even bigger scope. And the scope fails because it just feels like this narrow path they take, and it doesn't feel like this actual world they've created. Oh yeah, they also raise way too many questions. So like, I'd be happy if they ended up doing like a 3rd movie in between, like a movie like Maze Runner 2.5, The Death Trials, where they just like has a Q&A with like the screen has like a Q&A between characters, and they read comments off the they start asking these questions to like authority figures, and like, why does this happen? And like the authority figure could be like, yes, well this happens because this, and then we would all be caught up because it's very vague. The movie's way too vague to actually be considered good. There is also no character development. Like, you get this flashback sequence for Dylan O'Brien at the beginning, and then that's it. Nothing else for the rest of the movie, and you're just kind of like, ooh, gee, that didn't work out well. The villain, incredibly weak. They have that girl that pretended to kill herself at the end of the first one. She's back, and she's just kind of like, alright, I'm back. Thomas, why did you do this? And she shows up for that at the very end. She shows up on Skype for a couple times, and you have the guy from Game of Thrones who's just kind of like, yeah, okay. And that Game of Thrones character, he is part of some very confusing moments. Also, they have this charismatic wisdom character that is supposed to follow. He's confusing as well. There are also no consequences for any characters that you might even care about even a little. Minnow dies, and then he comes back to life, and you're like, oh no, is Minnow gonna die? And like, ew. And then no, he got struck by lightning, and then he's back to life, and that's 3 minutes. It's irrelevant to the rest of the movie. I just thought I should point that out. You're also constantly wondering where you are in the story, like, where's this world building? How did other characters to get where they were? In the end, Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials, it's a long, boring mess. This is probably my least favorite young adult adaptation. Actually, no, it's not. The Fifth Wave is worse. You have, like, at the top, you got Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, and then it's, like, Catching Fire, and then it's Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, and the first one, Hunger Games. And then, like, and there's Maze Runner, and then you got Divergent, then you got Insurgent, and then you got Maze Runner 2, and then there's Fifth Wave. Let's not talk about Fifth Wave. Anyway, Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials gets a 3.5 out of 10. Have you seen the Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials? Let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. What's your favourite young adult novel sequel? That'd be interesting. Has to be a sequel. Anyway, like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to become a little Platypus, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.